right, what's up, guys? I got Clayton with me. I got JMart. Clayton is 4-0, going to make everybody $1 million here at the end of the podcast with his player props. No, we're gonna do Alabama, Tennessee. We're gonna do Georgia, Texas. Two marquee games. So let's just get right into it. Clayton, if you will, please explain what the heck's going on, because last time I watched Alabama, I would say they were destroying Georgia, but it was 28-0. Then it turns into an amazing game. They win. And then they lose to Vanderbilt. Like, what the heck? Now they're at Tennessee. Tennessee, on the other hand, looks like the best team in college football. They're just rolling. Then they end up in Arkansas, and then they can't score. So we talk about the playoffs, like, changing everything. And the Georgia-Texas game, we'll get to that in a minute. But I'm not saying this is an elimination game, but, wow, it's a really, really big game, right? Like, the loser of this game most likely has to win out, or at least – you're damn close to it. So go ahead. What are you most excited about? It's Alabama at Tennessee. Floor's yours.
Yeah, definitely. I think the implications became a lot bigger just because both teams have a loss now. But I kind of want to break this down by going through the biggest weaknesses and strengths that I've seen from each team. So looking at Tennessee on the weakness side, they've had a lot of offensive struggles since SEC play started, specifically in the pass game. They have not thrown for 200 yards against SEC teams and are struggling to hit their deep balls. And a lot of routes across the middle too, which I think has a lot to go with how just Nico feels. I don't think he's playing super confidently. But then when we look at Alabama, they're having a lot of defensive breakdowns on deep pass plays. Both South Carolina and Vanderbilt had multiple preventable deep pass touchdowns that really contributed to those teams' great performances against Alabama. And there were definitely times in the second half of the UGA game where that was an issue as well. Looking at the other side on the strengths, Tennessee is really good in the run game. I think Dylan Sampson is top 3, at least top 5 running back in the nation, super versatile. So if he can get going early, I think Tennessee definitely has a good shot to win. And I think Alabama, if this is connecting between Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams, we didn't see it too much last week, partially probably because Jack said to bet on it. But Ryan Williams is clearly the number one receiver for Bama, and their offense has looked way better when they're consistently connecting. So with a run game from Bama not being as explosive this year, that's something that they're going to have going if they want to win. But looking at the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, I think Bama's going to win in a close one. Tennessee is just going to have to play really good in the pass game, which they've struggled to do in SEC play. And while I do think Alabama's defense has had their struggles, considering how they played against Florida and other inferior teams, I just don't see Tennessee coming out on top. So I'm going to take Alabama. Close game. I would say like 27-23.
Got it. So does that mean if the game was in Alabama, you think they could win by a couple touchdowns? Because the game's in Tennessee. You still like Alabama to pull it off, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I think it just comes down to if the pass game for Tennessee can connect or not.
So my read on just Tennessee in general is I didn't love that they didn't bury Oklahoma. I thought that was kind of a bad sign. And then I just have it's always that random person who like thinks they know everything and you just bump into somebody. And that's what happened Saturday. I don't know why down here in Georgia, but some random Tennessee fan. And it was like, I should have just known Arkansas was going to win when he said it. Because Tennessee does feel like they beat up on the inferior opponents. JMart, you got the same read on it, or we wearing orange here? What do you think?
So the big thing is, like Clayton said, Nico's confidence as a quarterback. He has looked confident against bad teams, but when the competition level raises, he looks a little unsure in the pocket, and they have to lean on the run game a little more. The good news is they have, like Clayton said again, an incredible running back that they can lean on and they can use to help them win games. The issue is when you look at Alabama, they've been having similar issues with Jalen Milroe. He's looked a little shaky in the pocket recently ever since the Georgia game. It's the passes haven't been falling. He's been making weird reads, and he's not been himself. I do, again, expect Milroe to kind of regress back to where he was to start the season and not to be as good and efficient as he was then, but at least more similar to that. I think he'll find Ryan Williams a little more this week. I expect them to be able to run a little better. I do think Alabama is the better team and probably will pull this win out. But the big factor is that it is in Knoxville. And what if Nico's able to get that confidence early? The crowd will be behind him. He didn't have that, I think, in the Arkansas game. If he can get the crowd behind him, that will be a big factor in his confidence. And he has the arm talent as good as anyone else in college football. So I'm leaning Alabama, but don't be shocked if Tennessee is able to come out that first quarter, kind of do what Alabama did to Georgia and kind of put them in a little bit of a hole and make them build it out.
Can Tennessee contain Milroe? You were worried about Georgia not being able to do it. Again, don't want to relive it for you, but they weren't able to stop them. How does Tennessee's defense match up that way?
Not much better. Milroe is just such a freak athlete. You don't find guys like him a lot. He can kind of, on his day, do whatever he wants on the football field. And I think what they need to do is get to him early. If you can sack him early in the game, he gets a little less confident in the pocket and he will kind of throw the ball away or not really look for the scramble as much. But if they let him have some clean pockets early on, he'll just be able to build that confidence up. He'll know when to scramble. He'll make the right reads. I don't think they line up that much better than Georgia, but it is a home game, which is a big part of this.
Okay, and then so Clayton, on the other side, it's hard to figure out Alabama's defense, like what's going on, because they jump out against Georgia, and then they give up all those points. They give up all the points against Vanderbilt. They can't get off the field. You're telling me Tennessee is going to run the ball right at them. Does Alabama have it sounds funny to say, do they have the horses up front to be able to stop the run?
Well, the stronger part of Alabama's defense is actually their defensive line. I think it's like 3 out of their 5 highest graded defensive players are on the D-line. So they definitely have the weapons. I think the main concern is in the pass game. Like I was saying, they've just given up way too many deep shots. Very abnormal for an Alabama team. So
that's why it favors you. That you think matchup-wise, it's a good situation for Alabama this weekend.
Yes, because I think they're capable of stopping the run, and I'm just not confident in Nico. But like Jack said, the environment could have a big impact on it. So if the crowd gets behind him and he gets his confidence up, definitely could be a game.
Cool. So that's the 3:30 game. The later game, the 7:30 game, which I guess that's the new contract. They put these games at 7:30. The whatever the SEC game of the week is, Georgia, Texas. All right. Fan hat on, fully on. It's all good. You're going to Texas, underdog at Texas. So, I mean, Georgia's an underdog. Is that automatically bet on it? I think they ended up as the favorite at Alabama, right? Weren't they like a 1 or 2 point favorites? So
yeah, they had heads up.
Let me double check what the spread is right this second. So go ahead. Let's break it down this way. What are the 3 keys to the game? Starting on offense for Georgia. Walk me through the game plan and what's going to make you smile in the first quarter here. It's like, all right, if that's working for us, I got a good feeling.
So starting off, it isn't probably the most important thing, but it's a big factor, is Mike Bobo's play calling. Georgia isn't going to need to come out throwing the ball. It's going to need to – they've been throwing the ball more in recent weeks. They're going to need to continue to do that. They can't come out first drive of the game, run the ball first time, run the ball the second time, try and throw for it on third down and not convert. When they stall out on offense, it's drives like that kill them. Bobo needs to come out. I get that he wants to try and set up the pass game. I think we need to start looking at this Georgia team as a team that sets up the run game through the pass game. They're going to need to pass first early and often. They have guys like Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, really great deep threat receivers. They are missing one this week, but
Which one's number 8? Who's number 8?
Is that
the one that they threw the lob to at the end of the Alabama game?
I think that's Lovett. No, that's Colby Young. He's not playing anymore. Yeah.
Not a fan. I didn't like his effort. I know you said it wasn't a great throw. I didn't love the effort on that play.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan either. He kind of sucks. But yeah, he's arrested now. So
no, I honestly did not even know that. Is it arrested something kind of funny or something we shouldn't really talk about? Got it. All right, let's move on. So anyway, offensive line. How's Georgia's offensive line? That's always the strength. You're telling me they're having a harder time running the ball. What's Texas do defensively versus Georgia's offensive line? Because that's always where I look. Who's got the edge up front?
Pressure. You got to make Carson Beck make bad reads. You got to make Carson Beck uncomfortable. He's my second key. You got to make Carson Beck look bad because he can look really, really bad. I've watched him play a lot. Some of his reads are off. Some of the throws are off. He's not been as good in recent weeks. I know the end numbers against Mississippi State were solid. I watched the game. There were some passes that just weren't very good. He wasn't playing a very good team. If you can make him uncomfortable, and the atmosphere should, he doesn't have that dog that you saw Stetson Bennett have for 2 seasons.
You're not a Carson Beck fan.
I love Carson Beck. I don't love him in big games. Stetson Bennett I didn't like, but I loved in big games because for some reason the level rises. Stetson's level rises as well. I haven't seen that from Carson yet. He hasn't really been as good in high leverage matchups. He didn't have a lot last season. He's lost to Alabama twice. He needs to kind of be able to show that when he needs to raise his level, he can, and I haven't seen it yet.
When 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, do you know if it's Texas's philosophy? Would it be your philosophy? Do you blitz them there? Is that what you're saying? You send 6, 7 guys? Or does Texas, because their defense is loaded, do they have the ability to just get home without blitzing?
You got to blitz them. It's Georgia has receivers that are at points uncoverable. Arian Smith was a sprinter in high school, world-class sprinter in high school. He can run by anyone. You can put whoever you want on him. If he runs his best route, he's by you in a heartbeat. So they need to get to him fast to not let deep threats like, again, Dylan Bell and Arian Smith and to an extent London Humphreys get open over the top. If they're able to stop these really quick receivers from getting over the top, it makes Beck have to make shorter reads and make these kind of tighter passes under pressure. It's not a good spot for him. That's what they need to do is really collapse early, 3rd and longs, blitz on 3rd and longs.
All right, let's stay on that side of the ball first. Clayton, thoughts? Carson Beck, Georgia's offense, Texas's defense. Who do you see having the edge up front, on the outside? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, so statistically, Texas has the best defense in the nation, which I'm not really sure is true because they haven't played a whole lot of teams yet. But I think a lot of what will dictate this game is the pacing from both teams because both teams have kind of had their early game struggles. Texas has more been in the turnover region, player mistakes, while Georgia's, I think, is the offensive play calling. So I think if Georgia wants to win this game, they're going to have to come out fast on offense. Like Jack was saying, don't just run the ball 1st and 2nd down. Got to pass a little more, be a bit more versatile than what they've been doing because they've looked really vanilla on their first half offense.
Where's Texas's biggest strength? Statistically, you're right. I hate statistics early in the season. Same thing in the NFL. It's just every game's its own game. Where's Texas though dominant? Are we looking at guys up front? Or do they want to blitz? Like, give me an idea of what kind to expect from Texas on defense.
What I would expect, just because they're playing such a talented team, and this is kind of going off what Jack was saying again, but when you're against such talented receivers, these guys can get open against whoever, so you have to bring the pressure. I'm not sure if that's actually Texas's strength or not. I'm not sure if they're better in the pass defense or
they haven't
defense, but
yeah, because they haven't really faced an offense like Georgia, right?
Right. Yeah. It's week 7, but it's still hard to tell who's good. But yeah, they definitely need to bring the pressure because that's taking away the time to throw is going to be huge.
All right, let's go to the other side, JMart. We get Ewers played last week for Texas, correct?
Yeah.
So we get him. What's the read on him? I don't think I've seen a ton. I like what I saw last year. I don't think I've seen very much of him, this year. Where's Texas's strengths and weaknesses on offense? Because everything I read, it's just strength. But again, they haven't played. I thought Georgia has the best defense. I don't know what happened against Mississippi State. I guess they were sleeping. But again, it's probably a good thing they gave up that many points to Mississippi State. So go ahead, explain where Georgia's defense is at.
So Georgia against Mississippi State, it wasn't like Mississippi State was really moving it that effectively. Georgia was just sloppy. They were committing fouls. They kept giving them outs on 3rd downs that they shouldn't have been giving Mississippi State, which led to Mississippi State just not needing to move the ball that far. They had 15-yard penalty on 15-yard penalty. That takes up a 30% of the field. They don't need to move the ball much further if you give them a roughing the passer and a PI on the same drive, which I think Georgia may have even done twice. As far as Texas goes, Quinn Ewers in the first quarter against Oklahoma looked really shaky. He was just missing passes that he can't really afford to miss. Georgia needs to recognize that. They need to see he came out a little flat. Was it his first game back from injury? Yes, but if it's something that he does, you can exploit that. You can make them look a little worse. You can force them to run the ball a little more. The issue is, again, Texas is probably best at running the football. They have Blue and Wisner, who are two incredible backs that are so complementary of each other. Blue's incredibly fast. Wisner's just all around really good. I think Georgia's really going to need to, again, you're going to need to stop them short on 1st down, and you're going to need to make them just not move the ball that far on 2nd down so they can't just run all over you all the time.
Does Ewers present the same problems that Milroe presents?
Not at all. Milroe, Georgia has struggled with dual threat quarterbacks the entire time Kirby Smart has been here. Okay. It's probably been the biggest issue with the defense outside of maybe really fast slot receivers, Georgia struggled with a good bit as well. Ewers sits in the pocket a little more. He is mobile, but he doesn't run that much, and he's been nursing an injury, so I wouldn't expect him to try and put his body on the line that much because they do need him. But the issue is that he's probably a little bit better of a passer than Milroe, a little more technical, and his reads are more consistent. But I think Milroe is just, as an overall player, just a bigger beast to take control of than Ewers is.
Clayton, let me serve it up this way. How would you respond to, well, Georgia, it means SEC. They got bigger guys. They're more physical. 4.5 points for the bigger, stronger Georgia Bulldogs? Or it's like, no. Texas, excuse me, has the same athletes. This isn't Texas from 3 or 4 years ago. What? Talk to me about, again, more so from the defensive side. Is Texas going to be able to move Georgia up front and actually run the ball? I hear about the running backs, but I'm inclined to be like, yeah, it's still Big 12 football against SEC football. So talk to me.
Yeah, I think Texas, at this point, they have the talent to where they're one of the best teams in the nation. Defensively, I'm not super worried about them. I think they can hang with Georgia. I do think a lot of the result of the game is going to be a result of Texas offensive play, though. Like I was saying earlier, sorry, this is kind of going off track, but they've struggled a lot with turnovers. And if UGA wants to get going fast, they're going to have to capitalize off these turnovers because they're happening consistently beginning of the game. It's a really abnormal thing that I can't go without talking about for them being the number one team, the fact that they've turned the ball over that much.
Sarkisian versus Smart. You probably can't get a better matchup than that. Clayton, who do you favor there? Sarkisian on offensive play calling, Smart calling the defense for Georgia?
Overall, I would say Kirby Smart. A little personal issues with Steve Sarkisian back when he was a coach on the Falcons, but we won't get into that. I think Kirby showed in that Alabama game that they have some of the best, culture in the nation, which is ironic to talk about Georgia and culture, whatever. But they showed that they have some of the best team on-field culture. They can hang with anyone. They're not going to back down, even if they go down by a lot. So, coaching-wise, I think Kirby's got the edge.
All right, so Clayton put you on the spot. You think Alabama beats Tennessee. They are favored by 3. I think you said 27-23. What are we looking at for this one? Georgia getting 4.5 at Texas. Total's 57. Give me how you think it plays out.
Yeah, I don't see Georgia winning unless they start off really strong, and I just don't think that's going to happen against Texas's defense. So I still think it'll be a decently close game, but I'm going to take Texas 31-24.
JMart, what do you think? How's it going to – first tell me if Texas is going to be successful moving the ball, and kind of answer what I was wondering is, does Texas have the talent just as much as Georgia? What do you think it comes down to? Anything else that we need to know? And then, final prediction.
Yeah, I think the big factor that I didn't name yet was Isaiah Bond. He torched Georgia in the SEC championship game last year for Alabama. I don't expect Georgia to just magically have an answer for him. He's one of the most talented receivers in college football. If Quinn Ewers can get him the ball, he will be a problem all game. I disagree with Clayton that I think the side of the ball that's most important is Georgia offense versus Texas defense. Texas hasn't played anyone even remotely good offensively yet. So I do think we're talking about a defense being this elite, similar in a way to like there was a Georgia defense a couple years ago that didn't allow points for a long time. They're not playing anyone. You need to play good teams to be able to evaluate a good defense, and they haven't yet. And I think Georgia is offensively good enough to test a Texas defense that hasn't been tested yet. And I do think that if they get a little too arrogant coming into this game, which it's very possible they do, they can kind of get caught off guard by Georgia's offense because Georgia is really explosive and is at this point a pass first offense. I kind of can see Georgia jumping. And if Georgia's able to get 17 points on them within like 15 to 20 minutes, I trust Georgia's ability to nurse that lead well. I think they've learned from previous mistakes with holding leads, and I think they would be able to win that game. And I think it's a more likely possibility than people think that Georgia's able to pounce early, especially given how Texas has looked early on offense.
So you think total-wise, you lean more 24-21 or 37-34?
Even if Georgia were to pounce, Texas has the offense to bounce back a little bit. I don't doubt Texas's ability to score 30. I just doubt their defensive ability to stop Georgia from scoring 40.
Sounds fun. Looking forward to it. A couple of other games that I'm sure will be interesting. You guys, JMart in particular, if he has any bets, he'll let them go. I am probably going to talk myself into Arizona, Colorado. Oh, man. Arizona's favored by 2.5. All right. Anyway, let's do 2 prop bets. Get you guys out of here, 2 or 3, however many you have. All right, Clayton, I've been joking all week because I'm surrounded in my life with people that gamble. Like, that's basically all we talk about. I'm like, yeah, of course, Clayton's 4-0. He doesn't bet. I told him to have prop bets. It's just how it works. So no pressure or anything, but it wouldn't kill you to continue to win. So what's your first one for today?
So first one, this kind of related to the games we were talking about. A couple of mine are actually, but I'm taking Nico Iamlieva under 198.5 pass yards. Like I mentioned earlier, their offense has not had 200-plus pass yards in SEC play. And while Alabama's defense does have some struggles, I think they're better than Florida's. I think they're better than Arkansas's. And like we touched on earlier, the nerves and decision-making has seemed to be a big factor, big reason why Nico isn't making these downfield passes. Cool. He's not getting the ball out fast, which is also allowing him to get sacked more. Plus, with Dylan Sampson looking so good, with the way I'm leaning towards this game already, I don't see him throwing for more than 200.
Sounds like the way you're making it sound like the game plan for Tennessee is like, let's not turn this ball over. We're home. Tennessee's defense has surprisingly been the strongest part of their team so far. So I like that. By the way, did the over? You only put out 2 bets yesterday, or last week, but the over hit for that quarterback too, didn't it, for Mississippi State?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he cleared it pretty easily. Georgia just stopped playing defense in that second half.
All right, what's your first one, JMart?
I went, like I touched on a little bit, Isaiah Bond over 50.5 receiving yards.
What is it, 50?
50.5.
That's it? Why is it only 50.5, you think?
Exactly. That's the thing, is that Georgia has looked really sloppy in the secondary. I love our safeties. I think KJ Bolden and Malachi Starks have been really, really good this year, and I think they've been phenomenal. Like, they're carrying the secondary. Outside of that, you have guys like Dalen Everett that you're looking at and you're thinking he should be doing better, and he's just not. And they're kind of letting receivers get open, and they're not tackling very well once they get the ball. Isaiah Bond's great after the catch. I expect him to have a bunch of opportunities after the catch. Again, like I said, I don't expect Texas to get shut down on offense. Just expect Georgia to outscore them. And I just think Bond at 50.5 is just really not. It's an average pricing. I get it, but it is one of those that's definitely undervalued.
Cool. Clayton, second one.
Yeah, so same game I was on previously. You can definitely tell which way I'm leaning by this one, but taking Jalen Milroe over 231.5 pass yards. Like you were just saying, how the Tennessee defense has been pretty good, and while they have been, the pass defense hasn't been great the past couple weeks. Arkansas threw for 279 passing yards on them, and Arkansas is not a pass-first team when you think about them. They've got a dual-threat quarterback. Florida had 223, first team to put up multiple pass touchdowns on them. So they've had some question marks on the passing defense side. Milroe is going to need to be able to make more plays downfield, but given the Vols' tough defensive front, I don't think they're going to run the ball as much. So I think he'll have a few more passing attempts, and if he can get Ryan Williams involved this game, I think he'll clear that line easily.
Sweet. And JMart, next one.
I'm going back to Georgia, Texas, just because I do feel good about this game. I feel pretty comfortable with my reads. I'm looking at Trevor Etienne for Georgia, the running back, 18.5 receiving yards. Georgia has started utilizing him a little more as that receiving back, which he was really good at for Florida. He's a really great pass catcher, and he's really good in space. Similar, like, he is a lot like his brother. Like, when you watch him play, it is a very similar play style. And I think with Texas probably focusing heavily on stopping deep threats like London Humphreys, Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, you're going to see that underneath ball be there a little more. And with Georgia needing to throw the ball more to win this game, he's just going to get more volume. He's cleared this line pretty easily past 2 weeks. He's been in the 30s, and I really don't see him just suddenly coming back down to earth, not catching the ball as much. I just don't see that happening.
I like it. Yeah, Clayton, you have a third one?
Yeah, actually, taking Peyton Thorne over on his pass yards. Lines at 198.5. It seems just too low. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Peyton Thorne, where's he at?
Oh, Auburn. Sorry. Auburn quarterback. They're playing Missouri this week, which it just seems a little low for the Missouri defense. They got exposed like they did the other week. Thorne's hit the over on this amount of yardage in every SEC game so far. Obviously, when you think of him, you think about his picks, his struggles, but the biggest mistakes that I've seen from him, they're not necessarily bad decisions. It's that he's making the right reads too late, and that's accounted for a lot of his crucial mistakes. And he seems to have kind of been turning that around in the past couple of games. So given who they're playing, and just because that seems a little low, given his performance against other SEC opponents, I'm taking the over there.
Let's stay on that just for a quick second, because what's the read on Missouri? I don't think you were super high on them to begin the year. Who'd they lose to? They got killed by Texas A&M, right?
A&M, yeah, who I didn't think was a super great team either. But going into the year, I thought Missouri's offense would be just as good as it was.
Do you think they'll roll Auburn this week? Do you think I know you obviously have Auburn's quarterback, but how do you think the game will play out?
I think Missouri's still the better team. I want to say it's at Auburn.
No, it's in Missouri.
Oh, is it at Missouri? Okay. Then I think Missouri wins it. Auburn just hasn't looked consistent enough to really beat any SEC opponents this year.
Cool. All right, so those are your three. Take that to the bank. I'll empty out all my money and bet Clayton. All right, JMart, you got a third one?
Yeah, talking about Missouri, Auburn, I'm going back to Luther Burden, over 70.5 receiving yards. If you just look at his receiving totals, you'll think that yesterday was a down week for him. He had a 60-yard rushing touchdown that doesn't get counted as receiving yards, but was a big play in a big game. But I still think he's got it. This line has started. He started week one being projected 93, 94 area. It's dropped down to 70 because of some unproductive weeks. He's getting it going. They're targeting him more. Last week, he had 5 receptions. A receiver like him, you see 5 receptions, he should be clearing 70 yards. Just didn't happen last week. I think he's good enough. Auburn has had some difficulties in the pass defending department. They're still solid, but again, receivers like Burden, these small, twitchy, just freak athletes get open. I think he's the X factor for this offense. I think he's the one that's going to lead them to the win.
That's the thing that jumps out every week. I mean, Colorado's got – actually, I keep joking about betting against Colorado. They got 25 receivers. They lost all the receivers. Everybody's got receivers. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. These guys just jump off. But, yeah, he is ranked as one of the best ones. So we'll have those write-ups for everybody to look at. Good luck. JMart, if you have any other bets, you'll put them out there. Alabama, Tennessee at 3:30. That one I really can't wait for, because the loser, that one, we're back to the old college football where it's you don't want to lose that game. That kind of feels like you might be you might end up number 13 or 14 at the end of it. So that should be fun. And then, yeah, Georgia's an underdog, 4.5 points. I don't think that was on too many people's bingo list before the season started. So we'll see how it plays out. Have a good day. Appreciate you guys. JMart, I'll see you on Tuesday. I'll be here in the morning to do all the NFL. And cool. See you guys.
See you.
See ya.